Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to unpack one of the most fascinating and honestly, fiercely debated archaeological mysteries of our time. We're looking at an object that's roughly 60,000 years old, the Divje Babe Flute. So, is it a Neanderthal instrument or just an Ice Age chew toy? It's a question that literally challenges the very foundation of human history, and we're going to break down exactly what the science says.
Could music have actually begun with the Neanderthals? Picture this, if you will, an incredibly harsh Ice Age landscape, 60,000 years ago. The wind is just biting and cold, sweeping across this rugged, frozen terrain. And then suddenly, cutting right through that freezing wind, you hear it, a haunting, deliberate melody. Now, for generations, we've basically assumed that music was a strictly modern human invention, but this single artifact suggests we might be entirely wrong about where the soundtrack of humanity actually began.
To really wrap our heads around this, we need to set the scene. We are in western Slovenia, 60,000 years ago. Outside a dark, deep cave, massive cave bears are roaming through the dense forests. Inside, Neanderthal hunters are huddled around glowing, crackling fires, just trying to seek shelter from the extreme elements. This is the exact environment, the specific context, where this incredible mystery was born.
Chapter 1. The Discovery. So, how does an object go from that ancient, glowing fireside to the center of a modern scientific cold case? Well, we start 60,000 years ago in the Neanderthal era. Fast forward and we jump to 1995. Archaeologist Ivan Turk and his team are carefully excavating the Divje Babe cave in western Slovenia. They are sifting through the earth and finding thousands, and I mean literally thousands of Ice Age animal bones, ancient stone tools, the remnants of old fireplaces. And that leads us straight to today, where one specific item from that 1995 dig has become a highly debated artifact.
Out of all those thousands of bones and tools, they pulled out this, a fragment of the left femur of a young cave bear. Now, finding a cave bear bone in an Ice Age cave, not unusual at all, but this specific bone was totally extraordinary. It was found in a layer of earth definitively associated with Neanderthals, dating back 50,000 to 60,000 years. And more importantly, it had these several carefully spaced holes running right down the middle.
Which brings us to Chapter 2, the case for music. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the physical evidence that sparked a radical hypothesis. What if this was an intentionally crafted instrument? First off, the holes appear unusually regular. They just don't look random. Second, experimental reconstructions suggest that the spacing of these holes actually allows different musical notes to be played. And third, this is the crazy part, scientists have actually created playable replicas of this bone. Modern musicians have taken copies of this instrument and successfully produced recognizable melodies on them. No way, right? If this theory actually holds up, music may have been part of Neanderthal life tens of thousands of years before modern civilization. Just think about how paradigm-shifting that is. It means that tens of thousands of years before modern humans were building early civilizations, Neanderthals were out there exhibiting complex musical ability, artistic creativity, and symbolic thinking. It completely rewrites the timeline of human culture as we know it. But, of course, science requires rigorous scrutiny. Chapter 3, the scientific debate. Not everyone in the archaeological community is convinced this is a flute. In fact, a massive, heated debate has raged for decades. It really boils down to two opposing camps. On one side, we have intentional crafting, the idea that this is a meticulously carved Neanderthal instrument. On the flip side, we have natural bite marks, the hypothesis that this bone was simply chewed on by an Ice Age predator, making it nothing more than carnivore activity. It's the flute versus the chew toy. Let's look at the evidence for both sides impartially. So the crucial point is how the exact same physical evidence is interpreted so differently. Supporters of the flute hypothesis point out that the holes are unusually aligned, the spacing appears deeply intentional, and experimental studies prove it functions perfectly as an instrument. However, critics argue these marks were created completely naturally. They've spent years comparing the specimen to bite marks, and they argue the holes actually match the teeth of ancient carnivores, like hyenas. To them, the fact that it can play notes, just an incredible natural coincidence.
Chapter 4. Rethinking Neanderthals. And this brilliantly illustrates what modern research has uncovered about our ancient relatives. Regardless of whether this specific bone is a flute or a fossilized chew toy, we now know that Neanderthals buried some of their dead. They used sophisticated stone tools. They totally controlled fire. They crafted ornaments and pigments, and they lived in complex, organized social groups. The old stereotype of the primitive, grunting brute dragging a club, yeah, you can toss that out. It's completely outdated. They were highly intelligent, adaptable, and creative.
If Neanderthals did create music, it just perfectly aligns with this modern scientific view. It means they possessed emotional and artistic abilities remarkably similar to our own. I mean, music is a profound expression of emotion and culture. Adding that to their mastery of fire, their social structures, and their burial rites paints a picture of a deeply, deeply complex people.
Chapter 5. The Mystery Lives On.
Leaving the Ice Age behind and jumping back to the present day, the Divje Babe Cave is recognized as one of Slovenia's most important archaeological sites. Today, the original artifact itself is carefully preserved in the National Museum of Slovenia. It sits right there, safely behind glass, where visitors and scientists from all around the globe travel to see it. Whether it's ultimately proven to be humanity's oldest musical instrument or just an extraordinary fossil shaped by the jaws of a hyena, it continues to inspire absolute awe. Which leaves us with this final thought for today's explainer. What other early echoes of humanity are still out there, just waiting to be unearthed? A single fragment of a bare bone has sparked decades of debate and forced us to totally question the origins of art and music. It's a great reminder that so many chapters of human history are still hidden right beneath the layers of Earth. Keep this question in mind as you think about the vast, undiscovered mysteries of our past. Thank you so much for joining me, and keep exploring.